What's going on, guys? This is Crozen, and welcome to the Quickblade build for Dark Souls 3. So one of you actually recommended that I go with some sort of build where we're going to be combining the Carthus Beacon and also the Pontiff's right eye, so that way when we get off our 3 initial swings on our enemy, we trigger an attack rating buff, and that will increase our damage as we go forward and we keep on swinging. So it's really one of those builds where we have to be a little bit more aggressive, and it really does hurt a lot in the long run if you do try to be a little too overly aggressive, so you got to kind of balance that a little bit. But we are going to be using the Gotthard Twinswords as our main weapon, and also in our left hand we are going to be using Rickard's sharp rapier and also the Kestus in order to parry a lot of different enemies as well. So that way we kind of have a good little mix going on here. Not only do we have the Gotthard Twinswords, but we have the rapier and also the parrying fist weapon in our left hand. So like I said a little bit in the beginning, if you're overly aggressive, you're going to get caught for it. So you got to kind of balance that out. And one of the things I did to help in that regard was I leveled up a lot of vigor and a lot of endurance, and I kind of got those to the maximum that I could get them without suffering too much diminishing returns. So I believe with this build in the long run, you're going to have like 47 to 48 vigor and also 40 endurance. So that way you're a little bit more bulkier and tankier, and you could take some of these hits if you do choose to be a little bit too overly aggressive, so that way you don't pay the price very quickly. But for this build, you are also going to want to start out with the Knight class. I know a lot of you are wondering why I'm using Knight in nearly all of my builds. Well, one of the reasons is that is mainly the class that I use to test a lot of these builds on, but also I believe Knight is the best class in the game, and again, that is my opinion. Now, if I was not going to be leveling up Attunement and I was not going to be leveling up Intelligence or Faith, then I would probably say the Warrior class would be best suited for that, but I believe in every other scenario, Knight is better, and that is why I choose Knight in nearly all of my builds. But I will be right back, guys, and I will show you how this build looks like at soul level 120. I will show you my stats and all of my different weapons and everything else that you need to know about this build in general. So I'll be right back in a second. Alright, so we're back, and in the stat menu we have 48 vigor, we have 18 attunement, 40 endurance, 20 vitality, 27 strength, 40 dexterity, and 12 intelligence and faith in order to use the Carthus Beacon. And lastly, we are at 7 luck, which was our Knight base. And some of you might be wondering why I actually got 27 strength. Now, what I did was I tried to figure out how much attack power boost I would get after 40 dexterity, and I was finding that I really wasn't getting too much of an attack power boost. So what I did instead was I leveled up strength, and I was actually gaining more attack power than getting dexterity past 40. So I had all the points in the world to spend, and there was really no other place that I could put those in order to use anything. So I went ahead and just added them into strength in order to give me a little bit more attack power base bonus on all of our weapons. So for our weapons, since we are speaking about weapons, we're going to be using the sharp Gotthard Twinswords, and we're also going to be using the Pontiff Knight Curved Sword as our alternative weapon. Now, I know that for the majority of the game, you can't get the Gotthard Twinswords until you're 80% done with the first playthrough. So you can use the Pontiff Knight Curved Sword. I know you can get this kind of early as well, so you definitely want to use this early. And also, I know the Rickard's sharp rapier is another one of those that you kind of get late. So as long as you actually have maybe just a regular rapier in your left hand, you will be fine with that. And also, we're going to be using the Pyro Flame to apply both of our buffs, and we're going to be using the Kestus for parrying purposes only. Now, as far as my gear, I basically just went with anything that'll get me below 70%, and I actually found a pretty nice cool looking set as well by doing this, which was the Aristocrat's Mask, the brass armor, the dark gauntlets, and the brass leggings. And for the rings, I'm using the Chloranthy ring, which this is, I would say, essential for this build, since we are going to be a little bit overly aggressive. So we're going to be doing a lot of different swings and wasting a lot of stamina. So you definitely want to have the Chloranthy ring on this build in general. We're also going to be using the Prisoner's Chain, which will give us a +5 to vigor, endurance, and vitality. We're also going to be using the Ring of Favor, which will give us a 3% increase to HP, a 10% increase to stamina, and a 5% increase to your maximum equipment load, and those increase as you find this second Ring of Favor in New Game Plus. And lastly, we're going to be using the Pontiff's right eye, which is this build based around. So Other things to note, I guess I should show you guys. What you kind of want to do is you want to first apply the Carthus Flame Arc, since that does last for 60 seconds, I believe, and then the Carthus Beacon only lasts for 30 seconds, so you kind of have to make that count in the beginning of a fight. So you definitely want to apply the Flame Arc first, and then the Beacon, and then you want to try to get off those 3 successful hits as early as possible. That way you trigger the buff, and you kind of want to keep that buff active as long as you can. Obviously, not in every fighting scenario that's going to be possible, but it's definitely going to be very viable, especially with the kind of build we went for. As you see, we have a lot of Vigor, so we can take a few extra hits that we normally couldn't, say if we only had like 20 Vigor or something that some of these builds go for. So I think that's really it, guys. It's a really fun build to use. It's definitely not one of my most favorite builds, especially since I'm not one of them people. I'm not one of those people that likes to definitely be a little bit overly aggressive. But it's definitely another different way to play the game, and I definitely wanted to make some kind of build based around the Carthus Beacon and the Pontiff's right eye. So this is basically my version of it. So if you guys have any questions about the build in general, or if you want to see any other kind of builds, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions about anything, also let me know. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.